All right. And we are now live. So, hello and welcome to anyone joining us just a few minutes early. My name is Charlotte. I'll be your money show host for this session. I do have Harold here with me in the Zoom room. We're ready to begin on time at 3:20 p.m. That is Eastern time, coming up in just a few short minutes. Thank you all so much for your patience, and I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I see a few more people are joining us, so I just want to pop in once more to say hello and welcome. This is your Money Show host speaking. I do have Harold with me in the Zoom room. We will begin on time at 3:20 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're looking for something to do in these couple of minutes before we get started, you can feel free to scroll on down to IBD's virtual booth below the video player. I believe they do still have some handouts available for download if you're interested. And as always, you can reach out to request more information if you would like. If anyone's having trouble viewing the booth, just go ahead and refresh your page and it should show. After a refresh, you just scroll on down again below the video player, and that's where you can access those handouts. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Harold Morris. He's a senior product coach for leaderboard and market search with Investors Business Daily, or IBD. Now, to our live viewers, please share any questions you may have throughout this session in the live chat box. It's to the right-hand side of the video player. We will do our best to get your questions answered at the end. And with that said, Harold, I will hand the mic on over to you. I'll be here if you need me, but the floor is all yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Charlotte, and welcome everyone to today's session, How to Make Money in the Stock Market with IBD. And just to get a quick intro on myself, my name's Harold Morris, and I've been here with IBD for, well, a long time, April 2002. So I've been looking at this data, trading this data for a long time, and my goal today is to help you uh, process the data that we have so you can make money in the market. Now, one of our missions here at IBD is, like you see it right here, is to help our members make money in the market. So that's our goal, that's our purpose, and that's what we hope to do with the information that we provide here at IBD. But before we can get into things and get into the details, we do have a disclaimer. Everything we talk about today is for educational purposes only. We are not licensed brokers here, so we cannot give you buy or sell recommendations. So uh, you don't take anything that's mentioned here as far as stocks or just don't take it as advice. We are not licensed brokers. All right, so what are we going to do today? So I'm going to start off just giving you a quick rundown of what IBD, who are we? Who is IBD is? So if you're not familiar with us, I'll give you a little bit of background on Investors Business Daily. Then I'm going to talk about the four pillars of the IBD methodology. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the different products that we have. So we have a variety of products for a variety of needs. And I'm going to spend most of the time using the IBD Digital, walking through a three-step program, a three-step routine just on how to use IBD Digital. And I'm going to talk briefly about the support that we have here at IBD. We're very focused on education, so we do have educational resources here at IBD. And then I'm going to let you know what do you need to get started what do you need to do today to get started with IBD. We have a very attractive offer that I'm going to mention at the end of today's session, and time permitting, we'll get into a Q&A. All right. So with that said, now who is IBD? Now, we were founded in 1984 by William J. O'Neill. He was a founder of IBD. You may have read his book, How to Make Money in Stocks, a very, very good book here. So How to Make Money in Stocks, written by William J. O'Neill, that is a must read if you're going to be in the market. So IBD, that's when the paper was started in 1984. Prior to that, Will had a institutional service that he was providing the data for. So back in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, he had an institutional service. And then in the early 80s and in 1984, he decided, okay, I want to make this information public because I want to empower the individual investor. So that's IBD started in 1984, and here we are today. So we've been around a very long time. And then in 2002, we were acquired by Dow Jones. So we're part of the Dow Jones family here. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, uh, our goal is to help you make money in the market. And we have a fact-based proven system that we use to identify what stocks to buy and when to sell. So we've done a lot of research. We've got research that goes back into the late 1800s, and our research has shown us that a lot of the fundamentals and some of the technicals, the chart patterns, they're the same today as they were in the late 1800s. You can look at a chart of some of the railroads back in the late 1800s. That's where the railroads were doing very well at that time. You can look at their fundamentals, you can look at their chart patterns, and they're pretty much the same today. So we studied this information, and we have a fact. So our rules that we use, like Bill used to say, they're not our rules. They're based on how the market behaves. So we have rules for buying and rules for selling. So we have a variety of products that will help you identify stocks. Excuse me. There's stock screens. We have stock lists. We'll talk about a few of those lists here a little bit later here. All right. So IBD, we have a I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. Okay, what our overall view of what our approach is. A lot of people consider us a momentum strategy, but we put a heavy emphasis on the fundamental analysis. So one of the ratings that we have here at IBD, it's called a composite rating. That rating is 70% fundamentals, 30% your technical. So we start with the fundamentals of a stock. We like to see a stock that has strong earnings, sales, return on equity, profit margins, etc. And then we like to use the chart patterns to time our entries and to time our exits. So we look at charts for our technical analysis, look at price and volume, support and resistance, those type of things as far as the technicals are concerned. And then market timing is probably the most important part of our strategy because you can do all the right things on your fundamental analysis. You can do all the right things as far as your technical analysis. But if you're not in the market at the right time and out of the market at the right time, all the work you put in with the fundamental and technical analysis, it's not going to pay off as well as it should. So market timing is extremely important. And yes, you can time the market. You can't predict what the market's going to do, but yes, you can time the market despite what some in the media might say. Now, over IBD, our overall approach is we have the IBD, the four pillars of the IBD methodology. Now, most of you may know us as, the Can Slim. Now, we cannot use the word Can Slim any longer because now that we're a Dow Jones company, Can Slim is actually a trademark of William O'Neill and Company. So we cannot use that, but our approach is still the same. So we have the four pillars of the IBD methodology, starting with the fundamental analysis I mentioned a moment ago, looking at the stock's earnings, sales, profit margins, etc. And then we like to, once we identify a fundamentally strong stock, we like to look at the chart patterns to time the entries and time our exits using technical analysis, looking what the chart is telling us. And then staying in phase with the market. This is very important. As I mentioned earlier about the market timing, we have a very good market timing strategy where we basically what we do is we look at what the market is doing and we act accordingly. When the market's in an uptrend, like it has been basically since April 22nd of 2025, that's when we had what's called the follow through day. The follow through day is a signal for us to get into the market, and this uptrend is still intact here. So we stay in phase with the market. So on April 22nd of 2025, that's when we started going long into different positions. When the market topped in February, almost a year ago, February 2025, we started exiting positions because the market was showing signs of selling off. And once the market started to sell off, that's when we were, selling stock, raising cash because of the market conditions. And then again, April 22nd of 2025, that's when we got the signal to get back into the market. So we have a very good market timing strategy. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the three-step routine. And then staying in the game. Okay, that's very important. What I mean by staying in the game is you got to have rules for selling and rules for buying, but especially on the sell side, because you are going to have losses. Not every stock is going to go up the way you expect it to do. And you got to have sell rules, and the sell rules help you stay in the game. So we are very strict when it comes to selling a stock. That's how we manage risk here with selling with our sell rules that we have here at IBD here. So extremely important, managing your risk. A couple of years ago, I made a decision. This was, it was right at the beginning of 2024. And I put it in my trading plan that I am a risk manager. I always consider myself as a trader, but I redefine myself as a risk manager because if you don't manage your risk, then you are bound to lose money. All right, and we have very good risk management techniques that we use here at IBD. All right, so I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of some of the products that we have, starting out with Market Surge. Market Surge, that's our premium product. So it is a very hands-on tool. So it's for the more experienced investor. You have to be the type of person that says, okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to do my own screening and my own investigation of stocks and come up with my own ideas. Then we have the swing trader here. So I'm a swing trader and leaderboard. They operate basically the same way. Both of these products have portfolio managers here. So with the swing trader and the leaderboard, When the portfolio managers take a position in the stock, they send out an alert saying, we're going to buy this stock at $100, for example. If the stock is working, they may add to that position. They'll send out another alert. If it did not work out at all, where it triggered a sell signal, they'll send out an alert saying they're going to sell the stock. So both leaderboard and the swing trader work both the same way. The difference between the two products is the swing trader is for more short-term trading. So they're looking to get in a stock, get like a 7 or 8% profit, and move on to look for something else. Whereas the leaderboard is more geared towards your traditional long-term investing, where they're looking for fundamentally and technically strong stocks, and they want to hold a stock as long as possible. So that's the leaderboard and the swing trader. Then we have IBD Live. IBD Live is a live trading program that we have here every day. In fact, I'll be on tomorrow morning at IBD Live. So we start about 10 minutes before the market opens, talk about the news of the day, and then once the market opens, we start bringing up charts showing you how we would trade these stocks here. Then we have Market DM. Market DM is an email newsletter. It's a hard-hitting newsletter, and we have a good promotion on the Market DM. So it gets emailed to you on a daily basis. It's got some very good stock ideas, very good information on stock ideas. And then the IBD Digital. So this is where I'm going to spend more time later today on the IBD Digital. The IBD Digital is basically our basic product here. So we're going to we're going to talk more about the IBD Digital, and we're going to do that right now. So with the IBD Digital, here's what you get with the IBD Digital. So we have the big picture article. This is probably the most important part of the of IBD and the IBD Digital and our overall strategy, because this article, the big picture, this gives us some details as to what's going on in the overall market. And you need to know what the market is doing because stocks follow the trend of the market. So that's something that's detailed in the big picture article. In that big picture article, we have what's called the market pulse. It's a little box. Here's a little image of the market pulse here. So we give you just a brief summary as to what happened in the previous day's market. We have our current outlook. So in this snapshot here, you can see our exposure level was at 20 to 40%. So just looking at this tells me that the market was very weak. So our exposure to the overall market was very low. In fact, what I mean by that is we were raising a lot of cash back then. If you look at the big picture article today and the market pulse, our exposure level is at 60 to 80%. So we adjust our exposure level depending on what's going on in the overall market. So that's in the market pulse. And then we have the IBD podcast. We have very good podcasts. A lot of the podcasts take place on Wednesday. Justin Nielsen, our research director, he's the host of the IBD podcast, and they have different guests. Not all of them are from IBD, so we have a lot of other traders and investors who invest very similar to what we do here at IBD. So we have the IBD podcast, and that's once a week on Wednesdays here. And we also have YouTube videos where we cover the market. So about 5 minutes after the market closes, we have a daily market wrap video where we just talk about what happened in the market session. And then, so the big picture article, that's what we use to get our market conditions and then to look for stocks. So once we have a pretty good idea as to what's going on in the overall market, we have the different stock lists. Most people know us for a list called the IBD 50. The IBD 50 is basically just the top 50 growth stocks according to IBD. And I was looking at the makeup of the IBD 50 list, and those of you who've been really following the market, you know that gold and silver and some of your metal stocks have been doing very well in today's market. I was looking at the makeup of the IBD 50. 22 of the 50 stocks that are on the IBD 50 right now are in the gold or the metal sectors of the market. So our lists are designed to identify the strength in the market here. And we have a stock of the day where our research department will just post a stock on the website, stock that's showing some strength that has some potential. We have stocks on the move. Stocks on the move is it's an algorithm that runs on our homepage of our website. This is just a little image of the stocks on the move. So right now it's running as we speak right now. So It identifies stocks that are moving up in price on strong volume. So a lot of your day traders like to use this because it's identifying stocks moving up in price and on some strong volume. And so this is a algorithm that runs throughout the market session. And then you have access to a stock screener in IBD. And then once you go to the different lists, then you can put together your own stock list. You can create 5 different lists, and each of those lists can hold up to 50 stocks. But once you find a stock from one of the lists, so as I mentioned IBD 50 a moment ago, you need to do an evaluation on that stock here. So we have a tool on the website called the Stock Checkup. Very powerful tools here. So I know a lot of our subscribers, a lot of people nowadays, you get information from other sources because of the internet. There's a lot of information flying around, and a lot of people who have IBD, they like to use the Stock Checkup as like a final authority. So, you're getting stock ideas from, several different sources, but a lot of people like to use the stock checkup to say, okay, what does IBD have to say about this stock? Once they're satisfied with what IBD has to say with the stock, then you definitely want to pull up a stock chart because you got to look at what the chart, what the stock is doing as far as its chart pattern. All right, so let's talk about the three-step routine. So I just talked about it briefly with the big picture article. So we need to know what the market is doing because, again, stocks will follow the trend of the market. Once we have a good understanding as to what the overall market is doing, then we want to find stocks, and we'll use a list like the IBD 50. There's several lists that you can choose from. There's IBD 50. One of my favorite lists is called the Stock Spotlight. We have another list called Sector Leader. So there's a variety of lists that you can use with IBD to find some strong stock ideas. And again, once you find a stock from one of those lists, then you want to evaluate that stock using the stock checkup. All right, so step one of the routine of the three-step routine is identifying what the market is doing because you have to know what the market is doing because again, stocks will follow the trend of the overall market. And you see here in this little image here, under market trend on the home page of investors.com, we have this article here called The Big Picture. And this is the article that I mentioned a moment ago where we look at what the overall market is doing, and then we give you some details as to what the market is doing. Just looking at this little image here, you can see this market pulse. So this market pulse, this is an inset image in the big picture article. So when you pull up the big picture article, you get the text as to what's going on in the overall market, and then you see this market pulse. So I always look at this. I always look at what the current exposure is. Just looking at this, you can see we were pretty much fully invested at the time that this snapshot was taken at 80 to 100%. So at this time, assuming you had a $100,000 portfolio, what we're saying is 80 to 100% of your portfolio should be invested in the market. So again, we will adjust the exposure level according to what the market is doing. Right now we're at this is the maximum level. Right now we're one tier down below because the market has has declined a little bit. And based on what the market is doing today, so far today, wouldn't surprise me if we see the exposure level raised to the 80, 100%. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Only time will tell as to what they'll do. And then we have this category here called the distribution days. So the distribution days, we use this category to identify a potential top in the market. So doesn't mean the market is going to top off based on what you see in this category, but potentially it could. So this little market pulse box is very important. So it's this big picture article, which includes with this market pulse. This is the article that I mentioned a moment ago. That's when we identified a time to get into the market. So February 22nd of 2025, the big picture article said, okay, it's time to get into the market. We're going to start raising our exposure level. One of the things we like to do when we raise our exposure level after we've been in a correction, remember market top in February of 2025, we sold off into late March into April, and then April 22nd, that's when we got the signal to get back into the market, and we like to start buying ETFs because when the market is selling off like it did almost a year ago, a lot of your stocks have a lot of technical damage. So there wasn't anything to buy at the moment when they had the signal to get into the market on February 22nd of 2025, but we like to at least buy an ETF like SPY or QQQ. So we have some exposure to the market because the market is going up, and then we wait for stocks to set up, and then when they set up in their proper base patterns, then that's when we tend to cash out on the ETFs and put more money into individual stocks. You're going to get more bang for your buck in an individual stock than you will with an ETF. So, in general, that's our approach when we're looking at a market that where uptrend is it is just starting. So, step one is a market direction, and that's using this article called the big picture. Okay, so step one, again, was the market conditions. So now we have a pretty good understanding as to what's going on in the overall market. Now I want to start to look for stocks here. And we have a different stock list here. There's stock IBD stock of the day. There's the stocks on the move that I mentioned earlier here. So I mentioned one of the lists. What IBD is most popular, or what's most known for, is the IBD 50 list. And as I mentioned earlier, the IBD 50 list, almost half the list has got your mining stocks on the list there. So again, our lists are really good at identifying the strengths in the market. Now, I'm going to show you an image a little bit later here where when we identified a time when these gold stocks and silver were doing very well. Here, and I'll show you a little screenshot a little bit later here. So step two is finding stocks. Now, once we find a stock, again, we need to do evaluation on the stock. We have a tool called the stock checkup. This is an image of the stock checkup. The stock checkup will give you a breakdown of the stock based on 30 fundamental and technical data points here. And so you pull up the stock checkup, you just enter the symbol, and it'll bring up the details of the stock here. So this is the stock checkup. And this here is also part of the stock checkup. And so, for example, I pulled up a stock checkup on this stock here in the energy sector. You know, energy is also doing well. You have mining, mining that's the number one sector for the last several months, and energy is also doing well. So I pulled up this stock here, and you can see here the stock doctor is pointing to the composite rating. So the composite rating that I mentioned earlier, this is the rating that's weighted towards the fundamentals. It's about 70% your fundamentals, 30% your technicals. So it takes these four ratings here and rolls it all up to one rating. So it's a very comprehensive look at a stock here. So I plugged this in and it pointed to the composite rating of 22. You can see the stock doctor, he's frowning because the minimum on the composite rating is an 80. Okay, so this is a very poor rating for the stock. Now, what the stock doctor will do, it will point it to the top stocks in the same industry of the stock here. So this Atlas Energy Solutions, it's in the oil and gas fuel services industry group. And then these are the top four stocks in the same industry as this Atlas Energy here. So the stock doctor pointed me to stocks that I'm not familiar with. I've seen Oceaneering in the past. I've seen that stock. I've seen Flowtech Industries in the past, but never heard of this, NPK International. Never heard of Tetra Tech. All of these stocks here have a composite rating in the 90s. So if I clicked on this is just a screenshot, but if I clicked on this check mark here, it'll bring up a stock checkup for this particular stock, and you'll see a rating that's in the 90s. All of these stocks here have a rating in the mid to upper 90s. So this stock checkup tool, I like to call this guy my stock assistant. So with this tool here, if you ever hear about a stock, say you're watching financial television or something, you could always plug it into the stock checkup and see what we've got to say about it. If it comes up with a poor rating, like you see here, it'll point you to something that's got a much better rating here. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the tool that a lot of our subscribers like to use as a final authority. You know, you're getting information from all over the place, but you can plug it in here and see, okay, what does IBD have to say about this stock here? So stock checkup, a very powerful tool. And then I took this image from the newspaper. This was back on September 15th. And this is a new high. So we have new highs and new lows. This is a section in the paper that's in the paper every weekend. This is back in September. Look at the number one sector making new highs. This was back in September 15th, 2025. You have mining, your medical stocks, biomed still doing very well. Some of your financials were doing very well there. So we identified some of the top sectors in the market. This was back in September, and you see the little dots here for this one in Franklin, Nevada, and this one here. It's telling me that these stocks are on this list here called the stock spotlight. I mentioned earlier, most people know us by the IBD 50, but this excuse me, the stock spotlight, it's always been my favorite section of the newspaper. So it's telling me where I can find these stocks and get more details as to what's going on with these particular stocks here. So again, back in September, we identified one of the strongest sectors in the market, which is your gold and silver stocks and mining here. And then as of last weekend's paper, you can still see, and let me back up. You see new highs here. You notice you don't see any technology stocks as far as making new highs here. Okay, so this is back in September. So no stocks in the technology sector were doing very well. So uh, here at IBD, we are pointing you to the top areas of the market where the strength in the overall market is. So again, this was back in September of last year. And then if I look at the paper last weekend, I can still see that okay, mining is still strong here. Now, a lot of these stocks have made tremendous moves here, but many times you'll see a rotation within a sector. And your institutions might say, okay, we've made some good gains in Franklin, Nevada, but we're going to sell that position and move into maybe a silver stock, this PAAS. So you see that many times in some rotation within a sector. So we're still pointing to the new highs. Banks are still doing very well. Energy is also doing very well, and some of your medical. They are starting to lose some of their momentum, but a lot of your biomed stocks are doing very well. So again, we're pointing it to the top areas of the market just using IBD. And then what do we do you got to stay educated. And I mentioned risk management earlier. Education is your number one risk management strategy because if you don't know what to do with your portfolio, how are you going to be profitable? So we are very big on education. So we have webinars that we produce. We have webinars on a regular basis. We also have a trading summit. We have one coming up on February 7th. So it's a live event. We don't do the in-person events like we used to years ago. So the trading summit, which is coming up on February 7th. So you can register for that on investors.com. And we cover a variety of topics in our trading summit. So the next one, February 7th, 2025. So about a week and a half from now. Then we have the IBD University. So a lot of education in the IBD University, how to read charts, how to know when to sell, how do I do fundamental analysis. So we have a lot of education in the IBD University, and it's free. You do not have to have a subscription to IBD to look at this information on IBD University. All right, and then the Market DM, I mentioned this a moment ago. It's an email newsletter that gets emailed out. It's got some very good stock ideas. So stocks near buy points. So I like looking at this on a daily basis. They can identify stocks. Maybe you missed them because you can't get everything. But this email newsletter that comes out every day, and then I'm going to skip this. I want to go to the offer. So we have a very special offer for the IBD Digital. So you can implement that three-step routine that I mentioned a moment ago with the market conditions, looking at the different stock lists like the IBD 50, and then doing some research and using the stock checkup there. So we have this promotion here. It's $15 for 6 weeks of the IBD Digital, and then the email newsletter, that's $20 for 1 year. So a very good deal. So these are offers that you can take advantage of right now. And How are we doing on time? Are we
We are right up against time, but
okay?
I can ask you a couple of questions came in when you were going through the stock checkup
hmm
slides.
hmm
Ashok had asked if you know your returns for 2025 at this time.
My returns, my personal returns, yeah, I was up my personally over close to 40% for my portfolio last year.
Fantastic. And then one more quick question from Bob. He was asking, what sort of returns do you get with your portfolio?
Well, what do you mean? What sorts?
I
I'm
think
not
it
sure.
might just be the same question written in a different way.
Yeah. So now that's my trading that I do. Okay. And uh, the leaderboard, which is one of the subscriptions that we have,
Mhm.
where the portfolio managers they send out alerts telling what they're buying. So if you don't, leaderboard is for people who, you don't have the time to do your own research, or you just don't have the desire to do so, and you want someone to do it for you. And the leaderboard is they have some very good returns. I don't know what they did last year, but there is a video on our website where the portfolio managers they did this a couple of weeks ago where they talked about the returns for 2025. That's a leaderboard. But me personally, I did pretty good. I could have done better, but hey, I do my best here.
Right, we'll take it. Well, thank you so much, Harold. And to those of you watching live, if you're curious to get that offer that Harold had mentioned just a minute ago, it is available in IBD's virtual booth. It's at the top of their booth. There'll be a few paragraphs just telling you about IBD, and then the offer itself is in bold with the link immediately after it. So for anyone who wants to take advantage of that and you're not sure how to get to that link, that is how to do that. You can also feel free to ask our customer service representatives for help via our chat bot if you need some assistance finding that. And Harold, thank you again for joining us. Fantastic presentation. Wonderful having you on as always.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate everyone taking time out of your schedule to be with me today, and have a great rest of the day, and happy trading to you. So long.
Absolutely, yes. And to those of you watching live as well, again, thank you. And be sure to stay tuned. We do have another session in store for you today. And of course, another full day of sessions for you tomorrow in this Money Show Virtual Expo. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.